Okay, we're going to begin today with some notes on early political parties here in the United States history. Please be sure that you open your Unit 5 Early Political Parties blank notes, and I'm going to be helping you fill these out today. Again, this is not a long unit. Your quiz will be on Friday, and quite honestly, these two early political parties, which would be the Federalist Party along with the Democratic Republican Party, they're going to be a big part of your test your quiz on Friday. So be sure that you are taking good notes here. We'll start. As you can see, I've got some columns here. The political parties here, either the Federalists or the Democratic Republicans. I have the categories here on the left-hand side. And what I really want you to do today is be sure that you're kind of interacting along with me. So I want you to be thinking for yourself, which side do you agree more with? Do you agree more with the Federalist Party, or do you agree more with the Democratic Republican Party? And it's okay. I expect your answers to look differently. I don't expect you to agree with every single thing on the Federalist side or every single thing on the Democratic Republican side. But my hope is that your opinions will, and you'll be thinking and you'll generate your own opinions about both of these parties. And at the end, kind of decide for yourself, okay, which one of these two parties would I have voted for? One of these two parties would I have affiliated with back in the early part of our country? So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Founding father, what that means is just one of the people most associated with these parties. With the Federalist Party, it is going to be Alexander Hamilton. He is going to be kind of the lead man with the Federalist Party in the late early 1800s. And the leader of the Democratic Republicans, I'm sure most of you, all of you, will have heard this name before. It is Thomas Jefferson, who becomes our third president. Some of you may also remember Alexander Hamilton from our movie The Crossing that we watched, because it was his character who stormed into the guardhouse and took care of some of the Hessian officers. He was a assistant to Washington during the American Revolution. The voters, the types of people that would vote for your Federalist Party, typically from the northeast part of the United States. Oftentimes they were merchants and people who were involved in manufacturing. Merchants are basically just traders, so people who would trade, manufacturing, people who make things, and also people with lots of money would typically vote for the Federalist Party. Democratic Republicans, on the other hand, were more of what I call your average Joe type farmers, your blue collar workers, your people who work 9 to 5, so to speak, and kind of your middle class individuals. And so what I'd like for you to do, what type of voter would you identify yourself as? Are you, a person who's kind of a business person, a person who deals with making and creating things, or do you consider yourself to be more of, a blue collar 9 to 5 average Joe type worker? Which one do you think you agree with more? And then in this column, you're just going to put, hey, I either agree with the Democratic Republicans on this or the Federalists. Views on the Constitution and the government. The Federalist Party believed in a strong national government and a very loose or a liberal interpretation of the U.S. Constitution. So they believe that the national government should have a great deal of power, and they also believe that we shouldn't take every single word that the Constitution says so literally, and that we should kind of loosely interpret what it says there, and that it was meant to be loosely interpreted. Conversely, your Democratic Republicans believed in a very weak national government, and they believed in a very strict interpretation of the Constitution. To put it maybe a different way, the Democratic Republicans were of the belief that if the Constitution didn't say that they could do something, then they wouldn't do it. Whereas the Federalist Party believed, well, the Constitution doesn't say I can't, so therefore I will do it. Many of you, I'm sure, have a very loose interpretation of your parents' rules for you. Well, Mom and Dad, you didn't say that I couldn't do it. I am positive most of you listening to this recording have at some point in your lives, done something that your parents didn't like, and when they ask you why you did it, your explanation to them, well, Mom, well, Dad, you never said that I couldn't do it. And that's more of a loose or a liberal interpretation. Whereas your parents may be interpreting it more strictly. Well, I never said that you could either. So you're going to take a look at these two, the Federalists and Democratic Republicans, and put in this square right here which one you agree more with. View of human nature. The Federalists tended to have a pessimistic view of people. What that means is kind of viewing the glass, and this is just kind of an old saying, as being half empty. A pessimistic person looks at a glass of water that is filled halfway as being, if you're pessimistic, you look at it as being half empty. Conversely, the Democratic Republicans had more of an optimistic view of people, and they view the glass, instead of being half empty, as half full. So they tend to look more at the positive side of things. So I want you to think for yourself, are you a person who looks more at the negative aspect of life, or are you someone who looks more at the positive aspect of life? And then you'll just put whichever view you agree with more in that square. The ideal economy. If you are a Federalist, you would believe in an industrial and manufacturing type of economy that really is more urban centered, which means it's very centered in the city. It means that you are a person who believes in factories, in big businesses, in cities, really creating jobs for people. Whereas your Democratic Republicans believe in more of a farming and agricultural, more of a rural or a country-centered economy. More of, your local farmers and your small businesses and your, more people like I guess we would have in Montcalm County. And then for you, which one do you believe with more? Which one do you think is better for our economy? Do you think big business and factory type jobs are better, or more of the small business, your farming and your small town type of economics? When we talk about foreign affairs, your Federalist Party, Hamilton's party, was more pro-British. Reason for that, Alexander Hamilton felt that Great Britain was one of the world's most successful nations. Yes, we fought them in the American Revolution. Yes, we didn't like, everything that they did, and obviously we fought against them to gain our own independence. But still, by that same token, Hamilton viewed it as this is one of the most successful nations in the world, and that we, should have them on our side. It didn't mean that we would agree with everything they were doing, but, we looked at them as being someone who we wanted to at least have an alliance with, someone who we wanted to be friends with. On the other hand, Thomas Jefferson was way more pro-French. Jefferson was a diplomat to France, which basically means he was a go-between person. He was a person who really helped our nation have a good relationship with France, and he cited their help in the American Revolution. So he said, we should really be more on the side of the French. We should want them to be one of our biggest allies because of the help that they provided for us during the Revolution. Again, if you think about it, without the help of France, do we even win the American Revolution? Maybe yes, maybe no, but Jefferson was of the belief that we should be more on the side of the French. So in your own blank here, do you agree more with the Federalist point of view here, pro-British, or more of the Democratic Republican pro-French? And you can put your answer right there in the box. The capitalistic system. In other words, what should the government do? The Federalist Party believed that governmental aid to businesses was a good idea. In other words, trying to basically help people if they need it. If a business goes out, we help them get back on their feet. If a person loses their job, we try to help them find another one. In other words, the government tends to lend a helping hand, whereas Jefferson and the Democratic Republicans believed in what we call a laissez-faire, which means a hands-off approach to helping businesses or to helping people, which basically all laissez-faire means is that the government lets citizens and businesses, for that matter, basically fend for themselves. In other words, if your business goes out, that's just the way things work. If you lose your job, then you're responsible for finding a new one, and you didn't have as much government coming in trying to help businesses to succeed or trying to help individuals to be successful. Again, in whichever one you agree with, go ahead and put it right there in that document. Who should govern? Your Federalists believed that mainly wealthy and those of affluent, which just means high up there at the top of the social food chain, so to speak. Your most educated, your richest, your most powerful people, those are the people that the Federalists believed should be in charge of our government. Those should be our elected officials. Whereas Jefferson and the Democratic Republicans believed more that your average Joe, your middle class people, should be in government because they maybe understood more of what most of the nation was going through, and that these people really represented the majority of our nation more so than someone of wealthy or affluent status. And so whichever one of those two you agree with, please put it right there in that blank. And then more leaders who thought like Alexander Hamilton were George Washington, he was a Federalist, and also John Adams, who were our first two presidents. And then along with Thomas Jefferson, the Democratic Republicans, obviously Jefferson was our first Democratic Republican president because he is going to be the third president of the United States. But agreeing with him were both James Madison, our fourth president, and James Monroe. And whichever one of those you believe more strongly in those people, you can go ahead and put a check mark there if you want to. But I would really instead look more at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 categories. And so don't look as much at the leadership of these people, because we haven't learned about all these people, and we haven't learned as much about Hamilton and Jefferson yet. But based on those 7 categories, what I would like for you to do is to really take a look at those and add up. Out of these 7 categories, did I agree more so with the Democratic Republicans, or did I agree more so with the Federalists? And try to figure out, if you were alive back then, what side would you have been on? Please be sure that you do a good job with these notes and that you save them. And be sure you study this note sheet and know a little bit about each political party to help prepare yourself for the test. For the quiz, I'm sorry. On the quiz, I'm not going to ask you, to name for me everything that the Federalist Party stands for, everything that the Democratic Republican Party stands for, but I will be asking you, this party believed in weak national government, a farming, rural-centered economy, and they believed in having a laissez-faire, a hands-off approach, and you would need to then recognize that that's the Democratic Republican Party. Or I might ask you, this group was led by Alexander Hamilton. They believed in industrial manufacturing, urban-centered economy. They believed those wealthy people of higher status should govern. And they believed in a strong national government. And if I said that to you, you would have to recognize that that is the Federalist Party. When you are finished today, I have a short little YouTube video for you to take a look at. It's about 2 or 3 minutes long. Basically, a little clip of what it may have looked like if Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson were talking to one another. So I would like you to please take a look at that. And then getting more into contemporary history, I want you to click on the 3 links that really will show you more about kind of what we did on this assignment or with these notes to figure out whether you would have been a Federalist or a Democratic Republican. But to put it in more of today's standards, there are 3 little quizzes for you to take that will help show you kind of whether you believe more like a Republican in today's society or more like a Democrat in today's society. And it will explain to you, or you'll at least be able to see, what Republicans think versus what Democrats think, and what's important to both of those political parties. So again, when you're done with this, please go to Edmodo, watch the YouTube clip, and when you are all finished with that, please do the 3 political party quizzes, and you will be set for today. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, be sure you let me know.